Read between the lines. You can do that with video game developers. That's why we take the initiative to see how new games would do in the video game market. It's that time again. I analyzed the games, now we follow up on them to see how they evolved. The new content, the community, the problems with the games, and if they were addressed or not. Have they improved with time, or have they become worse? This is not a review of these games, but a look at how they evolved over the past few months. The Kerbal Space Program was one of the first few games made available with the launch of Steam's Early Access program. It's a very niche game, but a very good sandbox game even in the state it was in a few months ago. As predicted, more parts, more features, and more of everything became available from the developers and the community. They added a recruitment center so you can hire more Kerbals for your missions. They have two stats, courage and stupidity. I have no idea how these stats affect the game, but they're there. I also said the game would be suitable to have in schools. A few physics teachers agree with this. This was used in a few high schools across the US, not as part of the curriculum, but as a special project once their final tests were done. The students applied all the knowledge they learned from the classes to this game. Instead of testing the vehicles through trial and error like everyone else, they used their whiteboard to do the calculations. They planned their trips, they landed on the moon on their first try in some cases, and they had a good time doing that. As cheesy as it sounds, it's amazing to see games like this helping kids to prepare for their futures. I finally made it to Duna, but then I ran out of fuel. Oh well. Kerbal Space Program is still in development, but the community involvement is still going strong. If you haven't played this yet, check it out. Sang Froid Tales of Werewolves is a game that really should have been called Canadian Lumberjacks vs. Werewolves. I didn't think the game would get as much exposure as it should have, and this seems to be the case. Very little content or discussion about the game has happened in the past couple of months, and the Let's Plays that were posted have single-digit views. Suffice to say, nobody is looking for it, nobody has any interest in it. The developers did mention the possibility of additional free content for the game, and what they're planning at the moment seems to indicate something bigger. It turns out this is just part 1, which they call Tome 1. They're making a Tome 2 that expands on the story. According to this thread on the Steam forums, no ideas have been finalized, but they're thinking about expanding the playing field so that you have to defend the village, and they're even considering a co-op mode. Not sure if it's DLC or a full expansion or even a standalone game, but this game with co-op? Pretty sick, I must say. Still, the big problem with the game is its lack of exposure. If you're playing the game and feel it deserves more attention, then post on forums or social media and tell people about this game. Surgeon Simulator 2013 is not a simulator of anything. Objectively speaking, this game is terrible. I believe this would be successful in the market purely because of gimmicks and the viral nature of the game. For what it's worth, it was. There's no official numbers released, but the co-founder of Bossa Studios said it did surpass 6 figures in the first few weeks. He also said the game received another boost in sales when they added the Meet the Medic mode, as shown here. This doesn't really add much to the game, it's essentially a reskin of the heart transplant operation. They also added a couple secret missions in space, which again is the same operations but in zero gravity. I said the DLC would be free, and as expected, they are. The game had its time in the spotlight, it drew people in with its gimmicks, everyone had a good time, now everyone has moved on. StarDrive is a very deep and engaging experience, but it still needed work. The developer made it clear to everyone that they intend to make this game great, and I had a really good feeling about them. A few months later, salty nerd tears are being shed. My first impression of the game was that it suffered from UI problems. Some things have proper UI and automation features, other things don't. Turns out, there's a lot of things I missed, such as memory leaks, non-functional components like point defense weapons, supply shuttles failing to resupply ships. There's actually many problems with the game. People are pissed off, and the developer is making things worse. The community backlash resulted in people getting banned from their forums and entire discussions being deleted. There was also a thread they made themselves talking about the state of the game. basically downplaying the problems as unpolished bits, and will continue to update the game when he feels like it. That doesn't inspire confidence, so that thread was also deleted. That's pretty bad when you're an indie developer relying on a good reputation to carry you. I don't expect the game to be fixed anymore. Actually, they're making a new game. It's a turn-based version of Star Drive. Wow. Well, people, we were duped. I thought they wanted to make this game great, and by their definition, it is great. But when you have major bugs in a game being unaddressed, developers downplaying the problems everyone has with the game and deleting anything critical of them, you end up with the developers on your blacklist. You don't touch their games on principle. Doesn't matter if you had fun with it. Don't support this behavior from zero-sum games. Drunken robot pornography. Fast-paced FPS action, terrible porno. It has potential to be an amazing game for co-op, but this seems worse than it was a few months ago. All the really short levels they added make the game feel tedious and boring. They basically consist of either racking up the points or killing the titans. There's a muffin mission where you collect muffins without a weapon, and you have to bring them to a location for points. I was expecting the single-player campaign to be complete by this time, but not like this. It's not even done yet. It just keeps going, feeding me all these short and repetitive levels until I've had enough of it. There's still a small but active modding community for the game. It's still missing multiplayer, but the priority was to complete the single-player campaign, so that's a non-issue. It still needs more time to get everything going, but please, make the levels longer. The winner is not me this time. Dust, an Elysian tale, has the Metroidvania feel to it. The tail at the end is a pun because it's full of goddamn furries! Still a good game though, a very good game with such amazing controls. I said it would have tripled or even quadrupled its sales numbers. There were no up-to-date sales numbers or demographics available, so I had to ask. He can't give me any specific numbers, but he surpassed 300,000 copies sold. Given that the game only sold 82,000 prior to hitting Steam, it's within reason that the Steam version sold double that of Xbox Live Arcade, so I was too optimistic in the sales, but the overall increase in its accessibility and exposure is still good. I'm seeing some fresh Let's Plays in French and German, so it is making its way across Europe as expected. There's still some activity around this game. No mods or DLC were created, but like I said before, it doesn't need it. Overall, the game was a success and deserves all the exposure it gets. If you haven't played this yet, check it out. Reus is a game that revolves around obtaining achievements. It makes a good attempt at using creative ideas and innovating gameplay, but it falls short in its long-lasting appeal. I said they couldn't expand on the game, and that has been true for the most part, but they've added some advanced settings, new construction projects, and they tweaked the resources. So props to them for continuing to support the game, but there's really nothing new here. Most of the activity around this game have been new players coming in because of a Steam or GOG sale. They come in, play the game, and they quickly take off after a few days. With its low price tag, no one seems to have any complaints. It just gets boring rather quickly, so people move on. Do you remember this game? I completely forgot about it, so I had to watch my video again to get to my analysis. I said the playability of the game would be fixed through config files or a binary hack. According to the PC Gaming Wiki, the field of view can be fixed, but the mouse controls cannot. There's no binary hack for the game, so one problem was fixed. The game still has terrible gameplay. I said I would be surprised if any DLC is made for the game. Turns out I was very wrong. I'm not surprised. Why fix the game when you can sell DLC? The PS3 version has all sorts of DLC packs that add a number of moves you can configure your combos with. The Combo Lab pack is basically everything in one package for $4. The Steam version only has this pack available. You know someone bought this. There's always people who will buy it simply because it's available, and that's why they sell DLC. You make more money than if you don't. It's still a terrible game after a few months. I sincerely and sarcastically apologize for making you remember this game. Scrolls is an online card game with elements of board games. I'm not into them, but I did have some fun with this. I didn't think anyone had a good understanding of the game to know if it's balanced or not, but after a few months, now we do. The Decay deck was added to the game, and it's widely considered to be overpowered. The top decks at this time are Decay decks with some elements from Growth and Order. I started with the Energy deck. I've had problems with it, but I thought it was because I didn't understand how to play it properly. Turns out it's widely considered to be terrible, and it still is. There's your balance. I was wondering about the viability of the game for tournament play. It seems that the Electronic Sports League is hosting Scrolls tournaments. They will most likely never appear at one of their offline events because of the obvious expense involved with attending them. The game needs lots of balancing, but it's still cool to see this. I did have fun with it a few months ago, but as they say, ignorance is bliss. Now that I know for sure my energy deck is near useless, I have a hard time enjoying the game. It seems the community has fallen off by quite a lot, and it's mainly due to the balance. When you feel you have no chance of winning, it stops being enjoyable. It's still technically in beta, but a lot of balance issues should have been addressed a while ago. There are still many players for the game, giving feedback and continuing to help improve it. These are the games I looked at between April and June of 2013. In 3 months' time, we'll follow up on the games between July and September. Thanks for watching!